Hi, and welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm Ange MacCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuity Performance. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, whole person leadership facilitator, and your host. The Human Side of Business podcast is fueled by the genuine curiosity to understand how personal characteristics and skills can be leveraged to drive individual and team performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately organizational success within business. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, expanding our learning edges, and exploring the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of organizations. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, and welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm Ange MacCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuity Performance. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, whole person leadership facilitator, and your host. The Human Side of Business podcast is fueled by the genuine curiosity to understand how personal characteristics and skills can be leveraged to drive individual and team performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately organizational success within business. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, expanding our learning edges, and exploring the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of organizations. I'm so glad you're here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with titles these days. It's focusing in on brilliant people who know their craft inside out, but don't always speak the same language.
Yeah.
How many of us have experienced that in the workplace, right?
Yeah. Seen it all. The good, the bad, and the why is this happening moments. So we're going to get real about why collaboration breaks down, how to fix it, and the tools that actually work.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics. When we say, I love a good definition.
Yes, you do. You do.
When we say cross-functional collaboration, what do we mean?
That is actually a great question. Essentially for me, it's simple-ish.
Okay.
Different teams with different skills and priorities working together towards a common goal. Essentially without wanting to hide in your office.
Yeah.
And in technical environments, the challenge is really amplified because everyone is trained to think in logic, data, precision, but collaboration, that's a bit messy. It's gray. It's human-centric, right?
Yeah, totally.
So we had a client last year within a biotech company, and essentially their R&D team and the commercialization team were basically living on different planets, like swear to God. Totally brilliant people. And they'd sit in a meeting and talk over each other or past each other. There just wasn't connection and conversation. It was divisive. So one team's essentially talking about formulas and patent strategy. Right. Another team's talking about or trying to figure out how to explain it to a hospital procurement manager.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It wasn't a knowledge gap.
No.
It was a people gap. No shared language.
Correct.
And potentially no clarity on roles, I'd say maybe, which often means no trust.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's embedded there. I agree. So why does this fall apart so often? I'll throw out a few common culprits and some spoiler alerts.
Okay. One
is lack of clarity on who's responsible for what. So you alluded to it earlier, job descriptions or even RACI charts.
Yeah.
2, ego and territorialism. Basically, what I see beneath the waterline is a lot of people speaking from fear.
Totally.
3, communication overload, or worse, radio silence.
Yeah, that's a common one. I think we see it's either communication overload or none at all. That's interesting for sure. Yeah. I'd add cultural clashes between departments.
Right.
So technical teams just valuing different things, precision over speed, or ops teams might need speed over perfection. That tension between what's being valued can create really big conflict.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of times what we're seeing, Maria and friends, is that's where there's such a big gap in communication that we're filling in said gaps. And 9 times out of 10, it's not positive information. So insert workplace drama, right?
Totally.
We also had another client. This one was in a software company. And this company was scaling fast, where their development team refused to adjust timelines because the quote unquote code wasn't ready. Meanwhile, we had their marketing team was in the thought process or shoes of, we've already announced the launch. Right. So we opened the door and no one was wrong, but no one had a process for reconciling those priorities either.
Yeah. And we came in at a time when it was very evident that the human fallout could have been costly. You know, folks were burned out and frustrated with each other. And I think perhaps on the verge of, or already kind of in the finger pointing or resentment space.
Yes.
But luckily, you know, we came in just ahead of that and it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
That was the great news for sure.
Yeah.
And I felt like in that scenario, Maria, you did a wonderful job of facilitating.
Thank you.
And bringing to light through the communication that it's not the person that's the problem. It's the thing or what we're trying to achieve.
Totally.
That there's nuance, right? And that alone shifted everything in that room and was able to kind of pull people out from me versus you into, we need to co-create a solution together.
Totally. Yeah. So with a mix of team chemistry and communication and coaching, really the key thing being communication and just as you said, kind of neutralizing and bringing everyone to the common ground of this is what we're trying to achieve. And we're all just trying to achieve our own objectives. Nothing personal. It was a huge transformation.
Definitely. Hopefully they carry it forward if they're listening.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Let us know.
So looking at, and I feel like we're kind of like jumping down memory lane here with clients, which is amazing though, but it's timely.
Yeah,
based
absolutely.
on this topic in the sense that there was another health tech client that we worked with and they had cross-disciplinary teams. So again, engineers, data scientists, procurement, marketing, communications, commercial go-to-market type peeps, all were really working on a major product redesign. And they were struggling hard at first. Meetings were intense, deadlines were missed, and everyone was defensive because it was almost like in that circumstance, there may have been the lens or the silo of lenses based on what each department was doing, if I could glean into that.
Yeah.
And what really turned around, surprisingly, was that they brought us in to run a series of facilitated cross-team workshops. And these, by the way, are not like build tall castles with marshmallows.
No.
But rather, you know, and nor was it around the technical skills, but it was on communication styles.
Yeah.
And again, it spoke to the thread of there's natural tensions depending on what communication lens we have.
Yeah.
And that could mean pace, priority. That could mean the way that we're interpreting definitions even of certain words. So it was definitely one of my favorite moments or clients to witness that transitional time for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something we call translation time. So translation time was 10 minutes at the start of every meeting where the technical team members had to explain in plain language what they were working on. No jargon or acronyms, just human words. Plain language. Yeah.
And it was hilarious at first
but we noticed within a month, the vibe in the room shifted.
Yeah.
Right? So like it went from awkward and kind of laughing at themselves, trying to figure and stumble through where does this common language intersect?
Yeah, exactly.
But once it did, people were then laughing and asking questions and cross-pollinating ideas. Because what I would, if I was a betting person, we'll say, what I noticed is that bridges were built. In the sense of communication. So people understood each other more because they knew, and they were interacting and working with each other a bit more, either virtually face-to-face or in the real world face-to-face.
Totally. And I think we focused in on the humor of it there. And I think the humor came out because it was like learning a new, very foreign language. And I think it was really lovely to see this group of people or groups of people allow the humor to come through in that, for sure. So yeah, translation time, 10 minutes at the front of the meeting, plain language. We're sharing information, and it will be sticky and clunky at first, hopefully funny as well, because we all have our jargon, but I guess just be open to it maybe being sticky and clunky and maybe a little bit funny, because like you said, I think it's important to know in any of these kind of communication challenges is that it's totally normal because we're all different.
Absolutely. You nailed it. And what I'm hearing in short and what I live by is frustration or uncomfort means growth.
Totally.
Because you're literally building new neural bridges in your brain.
Yeah.
And your brain's uncomfortable because it hasn't done that before. And that's as simple as it is. It's kind of primal, but it's true. The awesome part or outcome of this story was essentially this particular team had ended up finishing the project on time.
Yay.
And it was the first time in 5 years that they hit a major milestone without conflict delays. Why Intuity Performance hasn't done a business case on this one, I have no idea.
Yeah. We said this in other podcasts. We need to get the notepad out.
Right? Take your own pill.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the good stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're listening out there today and thinking, all right, great stories, but what can I actually do in my workplace? Here's what we'd recommend. And these aren't what we would call quote unquote trendy tools. We would find that they're practical, grounded tools we've seen transform dysfunctional technical teams or non-technical teams intersect.
Totally. The one that I really like is the RACI matrices. So R being responsible, A being accountable, C being consulted, and I being informed. So that might sound like something out of a corporate handbook from the early 90s, but stick with me. One of the biggest reasons cross-functional collaboration breaks down is because people are operating under different assumptions about who's in charge of what. You've got, like we said, developers thinking the product manager owns the timeline, or the product manager thinking marketing is responsible for the rollout, or marketing thinking engineering hasn't even approved the specs yet. So that model is great for every task or decision, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like a bad group project in university.
Oh, yeah.
Where everyone thinks someone else is writing the paper.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah. I'm like, if we had video, you could see us both cringing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So responsible is you name the person actually doing the work.
Yeah.
A, accountable is you name the person who owns the outcome and signs off.
Correct.
C, consulted are the people you need input from. And then I is informed, the people you just need to keep in the loop.
And I think I would add an asterisk to this to ensure that when you're working through the consulted and informed pieces, that you're still interjecting that psychological safety or safe to fail type language,
Totally.
conversations, so that you can continue to build the trust across teams.
So they don't feel, you don't want them to feel removed.
No, but informed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, diplomatic conversations. On the backs of that, we had a client in the medtech company space or the medtech space. Basically, they were spending weeks going back and forth over product documentation because no one knew who was accountable.
Yeah, totally.
So we sat them down. We mapped out a RACI chart with them.
Yeah.
And the tension in the room literally disappeared because people genuinely just want to know, what the heck am I doing?
Well, and it takes that emotional charge away when you just, from a very objective space, give essentially the who's doing what by when.
Very much so. I agree. And ultimately, it helps them to stop second guessing and start delivering.
Exactly.
So the second tool, team charters. And we use this a lot in Intuity because technical teams in particular thrive when expectations are clear and written down. And this doesn't have to be complex or comparative to a strategy, but it's basically written down how we work together.
Yeah.
It's like an agreement. It could be bullet points as long as everybody understands it and knows. It's not about the work itself. It's about how are we working together. So a good team charter includes, what's our team's purpose?
Oh, yeah.
What are our non-negotiable norms and agreements? Like meetings no longer than 45 minutes.
Right.
Or everyone's input matters.
Yeah.
How do we make decisions is another question to ensure that you're answering on your team charter. And what do we do when conflict shows up?
I love those.
And
I'm going to say them again.
Yeah,
I love
go
them
for
so much.
Do it.
So what's our team's purpose? What are our non-negotiable norms and agreements? How do we make decisions? And what do we do when conflict shows up?
Absolutely. And we worked with an engineering firm where the team charter literally said, assume good intent. If someone's blunt, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Now, there's caveats to that.
Of course. Yeah.
There's more context, of course.
Yeah.
But at its core, that one line diffused about 80% of their internal drama.
Yeah. Because technical teams often default to efficiency and logic, but forget that people aren't necessarily always logical.
Correct.
So a charter really helps normalize that we're all human. The third one that I would add, which I know you're a big fan of, is feedback loops.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the worst things you can do in a cross-functional environment is save feedback for annual reviews or postmortems. Not good.
Nope.
That's like telling your partner you didn't like how they loaded the dishwasher 6 months later.
Hopefully that's not on personal experience.
No. We discuss it daily as to how
daily.
Yes,
daily. Gotcha.
It's definitely a point of contention.
Okay.
100%.
You're precisely right, though, Maria. Feedback has to be real time, low stakes, and ongoing. And what I mean by low stakes is you're not in an emotional charged place.
Exactly.
Right? Low stakes is also, the daily grind.
Yep.
I guess, to paint the best picture. One of our favorite methods to use is the FUEL framework, feedback that is intended for cross-functional innovations. And we want to make sure that we're doing this on a regular basis, especially when we hit big milestones, even before then, I would say.
Yeah.
So let's look at the model. F stands for focus. So what was the intended impact or objective? Did we aim at the right thing? U stands for understand, what actually happened, data, decisions, dynamics, what worked, didn't work, what surprised us. Evolve, what do we need to shift or rethink or explore further? Basically, what do we take with us into the next round or the next iteration of a project? L stands for learn. What personal or team lessons did we uncover? And how did we grow individually and collectively? Then there's a bonus question.
Ooh.
For those of us that are really looking to bridge engagement, who do we need to appreciate, thank, or recognize?
That's a nice one.
So when we piloted Fuel originally with a healthcare client, super technical, highly siloed teams, the first sessions were, I would say, tentative. People really stuck to that surface level wins and neutral language.
Of course, yeah.
But by the third month that we were doing the group coaching with them, like something really clicked. And in the understand and the evolve phases as well, I shouldn't say phases, reflection points, they began naming real tensions. Like, we need to stop emailing at midnight. It's burning people out. It's stressful.
Right. Yeah.
Or let's actually use the shared document. We keep forgetting that exists. So that shift from polite avoidance to practical honesty and reflection across the teams, there was real momentum that started building.
Yeah, I love that. Practical honesty.
Yes. And what I enjoyed about utilizing these types of tools is that it gives a framework. Again, it takes it off the people.
Exactly.
And on the things that we're trying to build together. And with that, it creates that space of candor, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's gentle, giving permission to say the unsaid while keeping it constructive and forward focused.
Yeah, exactly. And because it's not formal feedback, people don't get defensive, or we didn't see them get defensive, and it becomes a part of the rhythm of work, which is, it touches a bit on what we've talked about in past episodes around a learning environment. Just creating open and continuous dialogue around shared values, goals, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. This one's underrated.
Tell me.
I know everybody's at the edge of their seats. Relationship building rituals. So this is the human glue. There's no tool or strategy that matters out there if people do not trust or know each other.
Yeah.
And the truth is, cross-functional collaboration often breaks down not because of technical problems, but because there's no relationship equity in the room.
Totally. Yeah. We've seen technical teams who've worked together for years but don't know each other's kids' names or hobbies or even communication preferences. So we've helped teams build tiny rituals that they've taken the shape of a monthly virtual coffee chat across departments. You can have dedicated communications channels, whether it's through Team or Slack. You can have a quick human check-in round at the start of big meetings. It's just can be one sentence about how your day is going. I'm a big fan of the 2-word check-in. What are your two words that you're bringing to this space or to this meeting?
I like that. What are your 2 words for today?
Oh, today I'm excited and I feel awake today. I think the sun is shining. The sun is shining. Spring is here. I'm excited and I'm awake.
I like
what are
that.
you 2 words?
Oh, mine are kind of conflicting.
Yeah.
Because I have seasonal allergies. And so foggy, I would say foggy is one.
Yeah.
And then the other one is exhilarated. Yeah. There's been a lot of great things going on. Going back to what we were just talking about, we also had a hybrid team and they did on their Slack channel Pet of the Month feature.
Oh, I love that.
I thought it was so fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of that myself, to be totally honest.
No.
I'm too practical.
Yeah.
I'm an extremist. I'm either like so silly or so practical. But basically, when you know that person that has Joey the pug, you know, and it's not just that person that declines budget requests.
Yeah.
It makes the conversation totally different.
Yeah. They're not just the financial guy. They're Dave with Joey the pug. Come on.
and finally, when things get stuck, bring in a neutral facilitator.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this could be someone, shamelessly plug at Intuity Performance.
Yeah.
Or someone in HR. When teams are tangled up in conflict, assumptions, or just plain exhaustion, an outside voice, caveat people, an outside voice that is able to meet your team where they're at.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I'll tell you a story in a second, but you want to make sure that outside voice can name what no one else is saying, if it's a safe environment, hold space for the tough conversations, and get the team to a place of alignment faster. So I'll tell you a learning story and a success story.
Okay.
So the learning story that came up for me is when we first started Intuity Performance, we were flown down to a company in Philadelphia. Luckily, thank goodness, they're still our clients 5 years later.
Amazing. Yeah.
The CEO at that time was, a risk taker, front loaded their comment. Like they were pretty blunt, so taking information down from the CEO taught me to read in between the lines. And here's why, because the CEO wanted to get to the bottom of things. They wanted to do group coaching, have real talks. And I was like, okay, we'll have real talks. We'll do this. Well, as an outsider looking in, I failed to ask the question, is there safety and trust?
Right.
And the answer at that point in time was no to both of those things. So it was a colossal gong show. Honestly.
Said with love.
Said with love, because I was so disappointed in myself.
Right.
As a coach, I didn't ask that question. It wasn't about the team. No. It was the fact that I felt like I failed them. And not to make this about me, but what I'm saying is that whether you're a coach or you're a leader looking for a coach, it's making sure that you're super clear about the temperature and environment that this third party's walking into. So important. That was like a huge learning lesson. Never did it again. On the success side of things, we're brought into a tech firm in, I think this one was in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And the developers and sales team were basically at war.
Yeah. Again,
divisive. Neither side trusted each other. And that's a huge thing, trust, right? It keeps popping up throughout this.
Totally. And I think it's especially common when we're talking about cross-functional teams. Within departments and within teams, I think it's perhaps a bit less common, but because we're focusing on folks from different realms, I think the trust piece is really key.
Yeah, for sure. This particular client, when we first started with them, the projects were months behind. In one 90-minute facilitated session, we helped them surface the why. So sales felt a bit blindsided by technical delays, and dev felt sales were overpromising.
Of course, yeah.
It happens a lot, but because of conversational breakdown or distrust, oftentimes that creates a larger erosion.
Absolutely.
So by the end of that 90-minute session, they built a shared decision-making model.
Amazing.
And I mean, it was only a start.
Of course.
But they walked away with a root cause and consensus building at hand with a tool.
Exactly.
So, of course, it wasn't magic, but it was facilitation and permission to name the hard stuff, essentially.
Exactly. And again, the word we've used a bit, or I've used a bit, is neutralizing, or a neutral ground. So if you're leading technical teams and you want them to collaborate better, start with structure.
I like
not too much, but again, maybe a bit of a formula or a framework, some of the ones that we've shared.
I like with framework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say framework.
Yeah.
So choose one of those, and those will help you gain clarity, which will then mean that you obtain feedback, you strengthen relationships, and when you need it, find a neutral guide.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And collaboration really isn't about more meetings or more emails. We're not suggesting adding. It's really about building the human systems around the technical work. There's integration. So people can actually do their best work together.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not communicating for the sake of communicating. It's, I would say, the quality and the delivery of the message.
Very much so.
Yeah. So quick lightning round.
Okay.
Common pitfalls. Number 1.
Oh, you have the list. Good. Take the list.
It's a short list. It's not as long as my lists usually are. So, first one, assuming everyone knows the goal. So again, going back to the frameworks that we shared earlier, those should help you not do that.
Right. So again, these are the pitfalls.
These are the pitfalls. So number 1, assuming everyone knows the goal. Number 2, letting the loudest voice dominate.
Huge pitfall.
Huge pitfall. And then 3 is never circling back to check if the collaboration actually worked.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think I would put emphasis more on 3 than anything else. Because that's where habit formation takes place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just, if it was a horrible collaboration, but you don't debrief.
Right.
And the same
Where's the
team or
lesson?
team.
Yeah.
The same team or teams need to continually come together.
It's a rinse and repeat situation.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I see you. Also adding a 4th to the list, if I can.
Yeah.
Over relying on email and communication tools. So complex collaboration needs real conversation. So it's almost like going back to that framework idea of if it's getting complicated, if you're assuming tones in an email, that is your huge flag.
Yeah.
To get into a real conversation. And of course, using the suggestions that we talked about earlier if it serves you, but don't solely rely on a lighthearted Teams channel, to fill in for cross-functional collaboration.
Yeah, you don't only want to know about Bob's pug.
Right.
Yeah, when in doubt, pick up the phone. If you can't meet in 3D, jump on Zoom or Teams. Digital communication alone definitely won't solve human tension.
Absolutely. All right. Before we wrap up, if you remember nothing else from today, remember this. Cross-functional collaboration isn't about soft skills versus technical skills. It's about human skills supporting technical excellence.
Nailed it. Yes. Love that. Great sentence, Ange.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And if you want your technical teams to innovate, deliver, stay healthy, at the very least, invest in messy human work of connection and communication and clarity. It's worth it.
It is.
Yeah.
And thank you so much to our supporters out there in podcast world. Listening to the human side of business, your support means so much to us. And if you loved this episode, share it with your operations, HR, people and culture, whatever you call them, or tech teams. And if you want help turning your brilliant but siloed teams into a collaborative powerhouse, you know where to find us at Intuity Performance.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm glad you could join us. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, make sure to visit our website. The link can be found in the episode description, where you can subscribe to the podcast, sign up for our newsletter, and learn more about our whole person leadership services. Sounds interesting? Explore the Whole Person Leadership Cohort by Intuity Performance, a unique program that offers unparalleled support to managers on every step of their leadership journey. Our program features evidence-based assessments, workbooks, group coaching, and interactive learning experiences to help you level up your leadership skills. Reach out today to apply to one of our upcoming cohorts. Until next time, take care and stay curious. Thanks for listening to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm glad you could join us. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, make sure to visit our website. The link can be found in the episode description, where you can subscribe to the podcast, sign up for our newsletter, and learn more about our whole person leadership services. Sounds interesting? Explore the Whole Person Leadership Cohort by Intuity Performance, a unique program that offers unparalleled support to managers on every step of their leadership journey. Our program features evidence-based assessments, workbooks, group coaching, and interactive learning experiences to help you level up your leadership skills. Reach out today to apply to one of our upcoming cohorts. Until next time, take care and stay curious.